And with something like MetaCheck, if you get patients, especially with long-term disease states, to be in better compliance, that drops right to their bottom line. It really makes a huge impact. And that's an area where I think there's a potential for us to really leverage the strengths of the region.
So there are a lot of those medication type programs. What is the IP space look like in that big
you may know better than I do. I don't know specifically, other than I don't think anybody's.
There's been a bunch of those apps and different medication reminders and these kind of things, and also how that fits potentially with companion diagnostics. So, for example, if you've got a cholesterol-lowering drug, you want to know what your cholesterol is, you want to have people in your whatever to check it at your house.
I spent a lot of time with Jeffrey Shepard early on with MetaCheck, and certainly there's things to the platform itself, low-cost device, iPad-like looking thing. So there's potentially some tech in there in terms of content management system, et cetera. But globally, I think that the issue is there really hasn't been any tool that has had major market acceptance or market penetration, right? And so some part of their sell-through was going to hospital systems and lowering readmissions, right? There are many conditions where people get taken care of, they're sent home, 3 weeks later they're coming back, and it's like 80 or 90%. Huge cost to the hospital, right? And MetaCheck's been able to wipe it out. That's some of their early.
So the way they did it is to get market acceptance or to show a benefit. I mean, is that how they?
The benefit's a big part of it. The outcomes. It also is understand the consumer. So there was a lot of upfront consumer understanding to say, how do we make this thing as simple as possible? It's not technology for technology's sake. We know that it's selling to potentially populations, elderly populations that don't understand this. We know that there are boomers who have aging parents, and for them, they're incented to make sure their parents are using these devices. So I think there are a lot of components that come into play. Some of it could be just the market timing itself. This device maybe wouldn't have worked 5 years ago. It's going to work now. A little vignette on that. He actually visited a customer, an elderly lady in her little house or whatever, and he was there helping her set up the device. This is, I don't know, 6 months ago or something. And she gets a phone call, and it was her daughter. She said, "Oh, honey, I'm so excited! I finally got an iPad." It wasn't an iPad at all, but she thought this was great, right? So, I think the timing of the market, plays into it.
Well, similarly, there's another local company called C2B, which is founded by some guys who came out of P&G and really understand sort of consumer psychographics from a healthcare perspective, right? So they go to hospitals or health plans, and they can say, okay, you're going to put together a piece of literature to talk to your consumers to try and get them to take their medicine or to try and make sure they don't cancel their appointments or whatever your goal is. We can help you figure out with a very short survey, which of these 7 different psychographic buckets your patients are in. Are they people that do what they're told? Are they people that want to research everything on the internet and make a decision for themselves? Are they XYZ? And we can help you spin your communication so that you're addressing each of those populations differently in a way that they'll be more responsive to. And so again, it's sort of this applying consumer behavior understanding into that healthcare space. Right?
And if it's okay, I'd just like to talk about 3 specific QCA investments,
Great.
why we went with them, where they came from, why we thought they would be particularly interesting. And they're going to be biased. There are probably 3 that I've invested in personally, so of all the list. One is Blue Ash Therapeutics. That was a product, that was a company where they identified a product that P&G was spinning out. I mentioned this one also because the CEO of that company was Greg Flexter, and Greg came to the Cincinnati area to join Shire at the time. So once again, we're talking about attracting that entrepreneurial talent. And Kevin Malloy had worked at P&G on the technical side, so he clearly knew that product. So we put both of them together, and they were able to kind of reposition that product, define what needed to be done, and in a very short period of time, actually less than a year, we're able to license that product to Forest Laboratories. So that was a very, and from the investor perspective, it was about a 12 times on the investment in about a year. That was a very unusual situation. The next one I'd like to talk about, if we can go to the next page, is called SonarMed. This is a company, this was technology out of Purdue that was based in Indianapolis, and it's an example of what I call angel syndicates. where it was the Angel Group in Indianapolis that reached out to Queen City Angels here and simultaneously reached out to the Angel Group up in Chicago. And we all invested in SonarMed, which is they're developed using sonar technology. They've developed a device to help monitor the appropriate placement of airway breathing tubes, primarily in surgeries and also in intensive care units, and now in neonatal intensive care units. So the idea came from an angel group in Indianapolis. We've all formed together, and now they've even brought in angel groups from Texas. And the last one I want to talk about is airway therapeutics. Where does the idea come from? It was technology that was out of Cincinnati Children's. Jan Rosenbaum, who had been at CincyTech, had been advising Airway. She is now essentially one of the chief technology people at Airway, along with Mark Salzberg, who's the CEO. And this is I list it as a biotech because it's a surfactant protein D. It's primarily for the treatment and prevention of bronchopulmonary dysplasia, essentially a breathing disorder that happens in very frail neonatal patients. So there that you see CincyTech and QCA working together, and it's developing technology that's out of Cincinnati Children's. So I just wanted to mention those three specific areas where we're finding deals.
Yeah, Children's is clearly our crown jewel, right, in the life sciences area. Are there more things we could be doing with them as an angel community, with them to make sure we're understanding where their science is, where their rock stars are, and partner with them in an even more meaningful way?
Yeah, I mean, some other companies or ideas that have come out of there have been Spineform. I already mentioned Airway. I think there's some others that I think AssureRx, actually. Mm-hmm. The initial technology came from a pediatric neurologist there, Tracy Glauser. So I think it's identifying the people that have the ideas and talking with them about which ones are viable, how can we work with them, how can we nurture them early on. I think we need to work across, whether it's CincyTech or QCA, and identify those ideas and try to help them develop them.
So there we know that there's some specific assets in the region that we can go mine, right? So when you talk about outside of healthcare, Dove, and Alice, in sort of B2B software, how do you think about, a lot of investors may have a thesis-based investing style, right? So you've heard. We also have all these great big companies that have an opportunity to tell us every day what they need, Wendy mentioned. So how do you guys think about that in terms of looking for new opportunities?
In the software space, and our experience has been that the most interesting companies are founded by people who would have been the customer for the company had it existed, right? Someone feels a pain in whatever they're doing on a day-to-day basis and sets out to solve that pain, right? It's part of the reason B2C companies are so prevalent is everybody's a consumer, right? So everybody, over the course of the day has 3 times that they probably say to themselves, right, if only this existed, right, maybe I should go do that. So similarly in the B2B world, what we see are people that came out of P&G or Kroger or whoever who are in a role where they had a problem, right? And they know that if they build a solution, they can sell it to their counterparts in other companies. And so most of what we see is less. I think in the healthcare space, we talk about children's. A lot of the work is members of QCA or folks from CincyTech going and actively mining, looking for intellectual property that's in children's and trying to figure out what's there that they can pull out because they know it's valuable, right? They can figure that out. In the software side, we see more of the reverse, where someone's coming to us or someone's coming to QCA already having an idea, right? So it tends to be more business driven. And maybe they're a technology person who can build a product, or maybe they go find a technology person to partner with them. But it's really a preformed idea that's coming out, and they say, I'm absolutely convinced this is a product that people need. And the due diligence then tends to be more around, okay, well, that may be true, but how many people need it, right? And because you at least have some basis to believe that it's a valuable product because it was invented by someone who felt that pain, right? So there's a lot more validation as opposed to trying to figure out a priori, is this technology, right? It's something interesting, which can be a lot harder sometimes.
What other strategies would you say, as putting my angel investor hat on, in terms of finding deals or understanding sort of where the markets are going, what other strategies can be used, and not too unlike dating. Match.com, a lot of this is happening online nowadays. So can you talk about that and how the folks here should be thinking about that in terms of sourcing interesting deals?
I think the deals that we've sourced have often been brought to us, but we've either bring them to other angel groups in terms of building a syndicate, or they're bringing them to us, whether it's other angel groups in Ohio or in Kentucky especially, and it's building up that trust, so that when people have ideas, they see what we've done, they see how we've worked with people in the past, and they're willing to come to us on that. It's programs also like this, where we're just getting ourselves out and known by folks.
I was saying, that's something just for anybody who's new to this, knowing that you may find something interesting but not be an expert at it, but know that you've got this great community of other angel investors in town to go to find the experts, to do the due diligence, to get help in areas that you may not understand. Right?
And at Queen City Angels, I really am impressed by the breadth of knowledge within the group. A lot of these are almost all previous successful entrepreneurs across many, many different industries that bring a wealth of knowledge and experience in different areas. So
there's really no one we can't get to, or expertise we can't get to.
Exactly. If it's not within that group, everyone knows someone else. So in that larger group, there's a lot there.
Now, how many angel groups reach out to Allos, would you say, to get feedback? Say, hey, we're about to invest in a deal. We wanted to raise a Series A year later, but we want to get your read on the investability of it.
Yeah, a lot, and it works both ways, right? So on one hand, our primary source of deal flow is the angel groups in the region, right? So we go out actively trying to meet with them to make sure that they know when their companies are sort of at that next stage for that next round that we're sort of top of mind for them. But as part of that, then it offers them the opportunity to bounce things off of us, which most of them do. I think one of the as a seed investor, and this was something I learned early on when I was at Blue Chip, and helping Tim manage our seed fund there. One of the biggest risks you have to evaluate as an angel investor is what that next round of capital is going to look like and where it's going to come from. The very first investment I ever made, the very first investment we made out of that fund, was a life science company that over the course of its first year hit every single and maybe the only company we've ever invested in that hit every single one of its milestones right on time, and it still went out of business because we went out to raise the next round of capital, and what we heard from the investors was, those weren't the right milestones, right? That's not what I wanted to see, right? You're close, there's 3 more things I need, and we're like, well, we don't have any money to do 3 more things, right? And so understanding sort of what the path is, and that's why a lot of the angel groups do reach out to us, because they want to know, okay, whether you're going to fund this company or not, right? What would you as a next round investor be looking for? What are the milestones we should be trying to hit? How big does the company need to be? What proof points are there? And it varies from company to company, but really understanding what is that next round of capital going to look like, and knowing that if you're raising a B2C company that needs to raise a $10 million Series A, there are not a lot of places in the Midwest to get that money, right? And so that may be fine, but you need to know up front, okay, we need to be thinking about raising that next round of money from someone on the West Coast or someone on the East Coast, and let's go talk to those people now, right, and build up the relationship, see if they're interested, see what other companies they're looking at in the space, right, and really understand that as early as possible so we don't spend a lot of time and money going down the wrong path when the right path may have been available to us.
And that's a very relevant topic right now, and Tony and I were just talking about this the other day. Nationally, there's an epidemic, if you will, of this, what people affectionately call the valley of death, which is you get the angel funding, but then you can't get the Series A. And because of SaaS software and cloud computing, you can do a whole lot more with less and are expected to. So more Series A investors are looking for companies that have much more traction than they used to when I was at Blue Chip. You were doing an A round knowing that all you had was a prototype, and go to market was what you were funding, basically, right? Can you sell this thing? Now you're expected to demonstrate all that, and the A round just wants to help you hire more salespeople and put marketing behind it. So knowing that dynamics is very more important than ever now to make sure that the company's properly funded, which speaks to the strength of the syndicate, right?
Yeah, because I think angel groups have had to fund companies much further on than they had to before, and one way to spread that risk is to bring in other angel groups. and then get it ready for that Series A with the VC.